Morning guys, welcome to a new track guide video. So last night it was the final of the Sim Senior season and it was Suzuka. So I thought I'd do a quick Suzuka guide and so let's get going. I'm using the replay from the qualifying session because the replay that I was going to use I found a couple of bits where I could get a bit faster, and I did my best lap actually in the quali. So I thought we'd just briefly analyse the lap and let's get going. So there we go. Now, when you're setting up your starting of the quali lap, this is starting to set it up. So into second there, ready for the exit, and be as smooth as you can. And for the start of the lap, I would let the car go wide. You know, just stay on the left so that you're covering more ground using less steering input. And in theory, you might be 1 or 2 miles an hour faster across the start line than you would if you held it tight to the wall. When you've done a good banker lap, one that you're happy with, then I would hug the inside on the exit and stay close to the wall to cover as short of a distance as possible. So with the Ferrari, I found that using TC6 for most places was a little bit better than TC5. And for the hairpin, I drop it to TC3 because the Ferrari really bogs down. It's a bit like the Aston. So first gear, hairpins, you'll have other cars being much quicker. Cars like the Porsche, for instance, they're really rapid pulling out of that hairpin compared to the likes of the Ferrari. So going down into turn one, you want to carry as much speed as you can through here and just give very subtle steering inputs. Let's slow this down a bit. Any sharp inputs, you're going to scrub speed off quite sharply, and so slow that down a bit. I don't always go all the way out there. I'll try and use the downforce of the Ferrari and try and cover less distance by staying a little bit tighter. And then I do drop into second for the exit of here. Sometimes third feels a tiny bit quicker, sometimes second. It depends on how you've gone into the corner. Most cars like BMW, McLaren, I would use third here. I wouldn't use second. But Ferrari, sometimes you'll have some corners where you don't know whether second or third's best, so it's just try them both. And you know, so most of the time I'll use second to exit here. Staying as tight as you can, and then open the steering up on the exit so that you're not scrubbing any, scrubbing minimal speed off. And then through these S's, I'm just kind of doing gentle steering inputs and just dancing, basically dancing on the pedals. Not really planting them, just being gentle. Try and carry as much speed as you can. Stay quite tight to these curbs. Uh, the Ferrari can be a bit finicky. Some cars you can take quite a chunk of these curbs and they won't blink an eye. But there's occasions when the Ferrari can do a bit of an awkward slide when it bounces over them. So like there, I'll try and touch the part of the curb that's got the tyre marks on it and try and take no more than that. And then if you can see the steering inputs, I'm just gently on and off each pedal, little trail brake just to keep it tight. For this part, before you want to use this right-hander as setting up for the left-hander. If you're quite wide out on the left here, turning in, you'll kind of compromise your switch to the left, and you're also covering more distance as well. So I'll try and stay tight here, going a little bit slower. You can go a little bit faster if you go wider, but I stay tight and slightly slower. And then get on the full power as soon as you can Like right here is where I'm getting on full power, and use all of this exit. You use it. If you look at my steering input over here, I'm hardly touching it at all. It's just the slightest, because the Ferrari's so pointy, and especially I was using the Boothby setup for this track, which worked amazing. And it is extremely pointy, so you only need the tiniest of inputs on medium to high speed corners. So use all of this exit and try and gently come over to the inside as soon as you can. And here we go. So the braking, I'm braking about here, dropping it from fourth to third, and then I aim to bounce over this curb, about half the car over it. It doesn't really upset the car. I did this for a whole hour last night, and it never threw me out. But if you take any more than the track I'm taking here, you can end up with an awkward bounce that'll send you off, and you can end up in the sand. I mean, there's no wall to hit if you do go off, but once you're in the sand, you lose so much speed. It takes a while to get back on the track. And then, of course, the tyres are dirty with sand on them, so um, on the exit here, you can easily get a track cut here. I try my best not to go too far over. You can go maybe another 1.5 to 2 feet to the left before it becomes a track cut, but if you get a severe track cut here, it will give you a double in the race. You'll get 2 track cuts, and if you do get the same on the exit, you can literally get your 3 track cuts just within this part here. So just be careful. So I'm going into second here, and if you wait until after you've gone around the apex to plant the throttle, you're losing a lot of time here. So at the point here, this is where I'm going on full throttle, right here. So I've watched some people go and plant the throttle after this, and if there's someone in front of you that's done that and you're getting on the throttle earlier, you could quite easily get a move done up here. It's a bit risky going too wide up in towards this hairpin, but this is where I got on the power. I would, get on the power as soon as you can here, and try not to bounce over this curb because it can hinder the acceleration. So the amount that I've gone, I'm just skimming it there, and then full power all the way around, and just let the car straighten itself up here. You can cut a lot of this. You can cut even a bit more than what I'm doing here without it being a track cut. Quite often, if you do get a track cut in the race here, it'll be a no time gained. It's quite hard to get a proper track cut. If you've carried too much speed from the previous corner and got a track cut from there, then that can translate to one here. But quite often it'll be a no time gained, but you don't want to get that in quali. You don't want to invalidate anyway. So right here, this is where I have a shortcut in the settings to drop the TC to 3 for this hairpin, and it's much easier than using a rotary to just keep clicking up and down. So I'm in onto TC3 here. Go at half speed. Hug the inside as much as you can. Braking point, I'm looking at the end of this curb. You can go a little bit later and then late apex that if you want, but I was just trying to be safe here and trying to concentrate on getting an exit that isn't having too much interference from the TC. So turn in late, nice and tight, full power very early, and let it straight. Try and open up that steering as early as you can so that there's no, like if you look there, when the TC kicks in, this will go from green to yellow or orange, and you watch the accelerating here, it's not kicking in the TC, so you get a much cleaner exit, and that'll help you against other cars that are quick out of the corner. It's always going to be a bit slower than other cars that have got punchy acceleration. So, anyway, after here, using all of this runoff on the exit, you sometimes see people going really wide out here. Don't do that. Hold a real tight line, as tight as you can, because this is such a shallow curve all the way around here. You're not going to shave any speed off by taking this tight line. You'll cover less distance than the people that go wide. And now into what I think is the trickiest part of the track. Let's just go back a bit. Right, see where the braking point is. Because this one I don't really have a visual point, I just brake where I feel I need to. So it's I mean somewhere around this path, or maybe a tiny bit later. I'd aim for around this path, but I'm not really looking at the side for this corner. I'm more worried about how I'm going to exit it. So I generally just go on feel when I'm braking into here. So down to third, carry as much speed as you can, and you want to use this outside curb. You can almost get the whole car off here, and you'll stay on this as long as you can. Little trail brake, and then try and stay as tight as you can here. It's a very awkward corner. I don't know if the camber is falling off, but it feels that way because it feels like you're almost being pushed to the outside. So I was doing this in second, dropping it to second and then going up to third early, but I found I was gaining a little bit of time last night just by using third, even though it might feel slow in the Ferrari because you're at quite low revs in third, but I was gaining time every time I did it. So try and, if you've got a good line through here, try and use third. Most cars are third gear here anyway, but when you're in second and you're trying to punch out of here, you'll find that the back end on the Ferrari will be sort of will start to kind of wiggle left and right as it's trying to put the power down. The diff on the Ferrari always feels like it's quite open. So it feels like you're spinning up one wheel, then that's gripping, and then spinning up the other, and it makes it feel like it's wiggling out of some corners when you use second. In third, you can get the power down a bit earlier, and I'm using TC6, so that helps. A lot of cars are quicker if you have TC0 on. The Ferrari doesn't really work that way. You need the TC to help you get on the power earlier to get out. So let's just look at that again. So getting on the curb here, I could have turned in a little later, would probably be a little bit quicker here, but I'm just gently getting on the power and then just gentle steering inputs just to keep the car in check, and then use the curb as the on the exit. Then I try and point the car in a straight line here, so the car is wandering inside a bit, and then it'll wander back to the outside without any real steering input, just trying to straight line down into 130R. 130R in the Ferrari, you can absolutely fly around it. I mean, you can in any mid-engine car here, but the Ferrari is really good. So no braking is needed. Let me just go back a bit. I don't bother changing up into sixth here because I don't think it's worth 2 gear changes. I just rev it out in fifth, lift right there just before the 50. And then as you turn in, get on the power as early as you can. So if you watch my inputs, getting on the power there, carrying about 150 around it. And then braking, you can brake as late as the 100 in the Ferrari, but it does mean you might go a little bit deep because you're still heavy braking as you're starting to turn into the final chicane. And if you haven't scrubbed enough speed off, when you start to turn, the car doesn't slow down enough and you'll go deep turning into it. So I tend to go a little slower into this than other people might. And it lets me consistently get a better exit out of the chicane. So braking really hard down into first to get the maximum out of that braking. You can get the whole car over this curb and it won't be a track cut. So turn in really tight and then throw the car left. And then you can, you can cut more than this. You can get the whole car off here. This maybe isn't the ideal line that I've done here. There was probably a little bit of extra time I probably could have had from cutting it more. And you want to be into second. Get into second before you put the power down, so that you're flooring it here. Now, the reason I'm flooring it early, cars without a turbo, it's not as important to get on the power as early as the Ferrari, because you're trying to build up the boost so that you're on full boost by the time you're straightening out here. So now it's on full boost. I'm using a little bit of this curb for the exit, and then it was a lap I was happy with, so I stayed tight to the inside to cover less distance and then cross the line. So let's have one more look at this exit, because there's something you can do here when I get to it. Right, on some cars, maybe the Ferrari if you give it a little bit of ride height, but I couldn't do it on minimum ride height. Some cars you can run the right side tyres onto the grass here and take this tighter and gain a bit of time. I can't do it consistently personally, so in other cars I can, like the front engine cars seem to be slightly better at cutting this, but if you try and cut this in the Ferrari, it's 4 times out of 5 you get a weird sort of bounce and you end up doing a tiny little bit of slide that just scrubs the speed off, and you lose any time that you might have gained from the extra cut here. So whatever car you're using, I'd give it a try. You'll see the esports drivers doing it. If you don't lose any speed from doing it, then great stuff. If you're using the Ferrari, I'd advise just using as much of this curb as you can without touching the grass. So let's go back and I'll do a right. We'll replay from here and go up to full speed. And so this is the flying lap. There we go. That was the flying lap done. Let me just, in case you're interested, the time was a 59.010. So not going to set the world alight, but that's my fastest I've done in the Ferrari, so I was quite happy with that. And that's it. So thanks very much for coming, and I'll do another track again next week, and hopefully this will be of help to someone. So thanks very much for coming, and take care. See you soon.